DAO Spring, which is really exciting. Found out about raid guilds, and was excited about the D&D meme, and then the opportunity to like do real work for crypto, like get paid in crypto. I was part of the Token Talk team, and we were starting to prototype mechanisms around commitments and being held accountable for the things that you say that you're going to do. And we were using the RAID token to try to incentivize that type of behavior, prototype mechanism. That's where Spencer and I met. And we had an early prototype, and then we basically evolved that into hats. We realized that roles were really important, and that lots of DAOs were facing the same challenges, and we built a few different versions of the mechanism, and then finally launched hats about 14 months ago. And now it's been going really well. We've got our own proto DAO and our own community, a full stack. Happy to show you what we have later. Before this, I was working on AI projects in SF, and this is my third kind of startup or project that I've initiated. So learning a lot as we go, and I'm really excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so we have the first question. How would you describe a community that is healthy and growing? And what elements would the community as a whole have? Nick, would you like to share your perspective for hat, like in terms of like what did you see? Okay, well, Lucid is back, so I'm just gonna take a step back now.
Now, I'm not gonna mute. I'm just gonna stay with my mic on. So okay. I'm sorry if I mess up the sound. Did you see the question I put in the chat?
Yeah.
Should I read it, or do you want to just go ahead and answer it?
And Nick, now you're muted, or the sound is not working. It's about Nick fixing that.
Yeah, Nick has to leave and come back too.
If my sound is working, then I'm just...
Yes, you go.
Thank you. So from my perspective and generally my experience being involved in DAOs, I think that the most important indicators of a healthy community is an involved community, whether it's a community that is involved in projects, in bigger or smaller projects, whether if some projects are really strong on governance, like really having that governance element as an indicator whether community is engaged or not. So if we see in a DAO that we have high percentage of voting, that could be one of good indicators of a healthy and involved community in the project. But we do know that, unfortunately, probably over 95% and more of DAOs do not really have community members that are engaged in their governance and voting on proposals. We either do not have enough proposals, or we don't have enough discussions on proposals that are posted, or we have issues with the voting. So if we don't have those issues, then we can say that the community is in a pretty good standing and committed to the DAO. Then I would say that a very supportive community is also a sign of a healthy community. And I know that what I noticed that there is misconception that the bigger community, the more successful the project is, and that does not necessarily mean it's true, because you can have extremely large communities that are just either on Discord server or occasionally involved, but they're not very much interested in the project, while you have smaller but tighter communities and more committed to the project and more really engaged in what is happening. Also, I think what else is relevant, that the community really understands what the project is about. it's not rare that community members really do not understand the project they're in and what they're investing their money in as well. I unfortunately had an experience from my legal work with community members that they put loads of money in, but they had no very clue what product the project is building, whether the product really makes sense or not. They just went down the hype train, put a lot of money in, and then it didn't really go well in as planned. And then also some educational aspect as well. I think that if there are enough educational resources on the project and on the space as well, it gives a good sign that the project and the community really cares to educate each other and potentially new members as well. So yeah, that would be from me in what I experienced in my involvement with ours. Nick?
Amazing. Yeah, I think a lot of DAOs really struggle with voting participation, so that's definitely like a negative signal. For me, I think about reputation, like different ways of measuring, like what are the ways that we want to, like what do we give reputation for? Because a good reputation system is a signal, is like a good way of measuring like who's making the biggest contributions, and like who's active. And I think one of the things we've been really excited about in Hats Proto DAO is like really making that visible. So we do anyone, it's open contribution, so anyone can like try to make a contribution to the ecosystem. We ask everyone on the seasonal basis to say like what they contributed, and then the DAO actually does a coordinate circle or does 2 coordinate circles and votes on like how much value each contribution created, and then we actually distribute the reputation at the end of each season. And to me, healthy there looks like a wide range of diverse contributions that are of high quality, and people being able to understand like where they can contribute to create value, and then also be recognized for the contributions that they're making. The other way I look at it is like the network-based approach. So if you think of every participant as a node, and then the relationships between the nodes in the network, you want that to be like, you want each node to have strong one-to-one relationships with a multitude of other nodes. If you have too much centralization and everyone is connected to one node, that would be bad. If you have people who are only connected to one person kind of off on the side, they don't really like feel like they're part of the network, that would be bad. So I would say measuring like the strength of the relationship times the number of relationships is a good way to think about community.
Yeah, when you said the one person being the single point, it reminded me of the graphs that Katarina makes. I don't know if they're called graphs, but it's like super clear when you see it that way. Okay, the next question is, do you design a strategy to reach this ideal community growth? If so, when do you begin to do that? If not, how do you guide the community towards this ideal? And are there any like meta intentions that help you with this process? Aleksa, do you want to go?
To be honest, I don't think that there is an ideal growth, and I think that like requirements for the project is built.
Aleksa, you're kind of cutting out for me. I can still hear the mic, but it sounds like it's getting blocked.
Oh, now it's my turn for the mic.
No, you're good now. Yes.
Okay, thank you. I think that building that ideal community is not really possible, because we all have different perspective on what ideal community is. and considering the decentralized nature of the environment as a whole, and then of the project specifically, I think what the best thing we can do is really learn from the community and let the community learn as well, because as you know, the project starts at one point, and then as it evolves, things change, and our initial plans change, the initial roadmap changes, the approach changes, or the strategy also adjusts, because and people come from different walks of life, from different cultures, from different parts of the world, and there is no really unified approach, and there is no one solution that fits them all. And I think the best approach in this case was rather be really, KYC, know your community, really listen to it and understand the needs, and based on that, build, or better said, adjust the strategy that leads to the growth. And, why do really understand like what keeps the current existing members within the project, because that what drives them will also drive new members to the project and make them stay as well, and then they will break others as well. So really nurturing that safe and healthy environment where everyone feels heard, and where everyone feels like they have a say, they can have the impact, and they can get involved, is actually what naturally grows the community, rather than putting that crazy pressure on really just looking at the numbers. Because I think at the moment we start looking at the community's numbers, then it really loses its original sense.
Yeah, I think numbers can be really dangerous too, but also obviously like there's a strong speculative motivation in crypto, and like obviously also like people want to be fairly compensated for the time that they contribute, and their energy and skill and effort and attention that they contribute to a project. And a lot of people are looking at like the opportunity cost of that. So trying to reckon with that very powerful force and like the free market economics in crypto, while also having like a heart or a soul to your project while you're working on it, it can be really challenging. I think that for us, what like one of the first things we realize is that there are going to be people who are using House Protocol, and people who are building on it, or building integrations with it. So we have almost two communities, like hat wearers and builders. And the first thing we said we need, like, just thinking about like startup strategy, the two-sided marketplace strategy, we had to start with the harder side, which is the wearers. Like we're proving out a model that people actually want to use this thing. Because if there's no users, then there's no reason that a developer wants to come in and build for these people. That's pretty unique though. So, but to abstract that, I would say like roughly speaking, finding product market fit is like the kind of, if we look at a spectrum from like synthetic to emergent organization, if you're looking at a synthetic organization, something that's like constructed around a particular concept, we're trying to solve a specific problem, then finding product market fit is, in my opinion, the right place to start. And then progressively decentralize to like make sure that goes out to the community. We can talk more about how to like turn an organization into a DAO, if that's interesting. If it's an emergent organization, like you start to see with meme coins and like Farcaster channels and stuff, or even just like NFT projects last cycle, you have this group of people who are like into a vibe, and then they get excited about that, and they have this kind of shared value and shared purpose, and then they find what's exciting to them to build on top of it, and that ends up creating that being a source of creative energy for people to make contributions to the organization. And then what people create that resonates with everyone else ends up being like a good way to grow the community. So I think it depends, like what your ideal strategy for community growth is, like really depends on like the style of organization that you're creating. But there's good playbooks on both sides.
So let's say, Aleksa and Nick are the founders of DAO Spring DAO, and I'm a new contributor, or I'm just like new to the community, and I'm like curious how to get started. And like Nick, with your background, your perspective from roles and responsibilities, and Aleksa with your perspective like legal and governance, how would you like bring me in or engage with me? Just brand new.
I always reference forefront contribution zones. It's like this really awesome piece from 2022 or 2021. It's basically like these concentric circles, right? So when you're getting onboarded, you start with like, okay, I'm in the community. I get some clarity of information streams. People say like, just go hang out in the Discord and like figure out what to do. It's kind of BS. Like it's not really helpful. It's not inclusive. Like it requires that people are like a very certain type of way, and especially coming from Web 2 or corporate or whatever, like it's not how people are like necessarily trained to kind of work and contribute. So I think as someone who's coordinating a DAO, making it really clear like what work is available, what roles are available. Oh, perfect. Yeah, that's the one. And then like what are the pathways to contribute? What are the like onboarding sessions? Usually like having a one-on-one or like a one to small n number of people in onboarding where people can really ask questions. I love what Clubhouse did when they kind of like were onboarding new users every week. Like I think if you have a strong growth in your DAO, like having a lot of onboarding sessions and kind of giving those first bounties or quests or whatever is a really good way to feel like activating people toward what they care about and making contribution in a way that feels valuable to the DAO. So it's like beginning that reciprocal relationship as soon as possible.
Yeah, I would agree on that. And I think that advice, like just go on Discord, check out all the channels and check the announcements and others, and that will give you a pretty good idea. As you said, it's a complete BS because Discord is the madhouse. And if the project has been a bit longer in existence, then you probably have like hundreds of channels and have no clue what each does. So I think kind of that onboarding is a very important aspect, but the onboarding not in the sense like here are 10 links and go and read them all and come back if you have any questions. Because first of all, no one is going to go just and read, I don't know how many pages of whatever. If they're very fresh to Web3, there is probably half of the things they won't understand, and that might scare them off because you'll be there. And I remember reading my first white paper and I was like, what the hell is this? How am I supposed to understand this? Because I got the link and just go and read. I think some easy and simple, very user-friendly gamification of the onboarding, right? Like read something like a very short and simple text that answer a quick question and get some points, right? Like that kind of gets someone you engaged, like, where I'm learning at the same time and I'm getting some rewards. I don't know, understand what those rewards are for and how and if ever I can use them, but it's still something that engages. Then really that first community impression as well. If there is an introduction channel, if I introduce myself, will I get any response? It happened on a few Discords that I introduced and no one literally responded. I mean, not only to me, but to others as well. And I think that is kind of like maybe like a first negative impression that there is not really existing members interested in getting new members involved in the project. Then really that moment of transparency, I think it's extremely, extremely important. And also all projects have to have certain documentation, right? Like whether it's those are the governance documents, white paper, a website, or whatnot. The language in there should be, at least in my opinion, simple and easy to understand for anyone, whether they're already Web3 experienced or they're just joining the space. And there are, some simple tweaks that could be done and made in order to make a new member welcomed and, really engage them to stay or to even like the research further into the project. I wouldn't be really talking legal stuff in the onboarding phase. That would definitely scare them off.
That's what I'm thinking, yes.
So we don't talk about that.
Okay, so now we're going to get a little bit more into the nitty gritty. So now you have you have a growing community and more contributors. So how do you go about talking, agreeing, understanding roles, responsibilities, power distribution, and compensation? And do you have any recommendations or suggestions for us here on how we can stay friends during all of this?
Well, check your ego at the door, right? Like, do not don't bring your emotions into those discussions, into those conversations. Remain as professional as friendly as possible, because there are always going to be some parts of the conversation that feel like more and you will like less. But it's totally normal conversation we've had, and one that happens and get to that and get to the
Aleksa, we're losing your audio a little bit again. Just the same thing like last time.
Oh, sorry. Oh,
No, it's good.
so I'm not completely muted. I'm just half muted. Occasional. Thank you. So I think that when it comes to agreeing to about roles and responsibilities, as the team, as the contributors are kind of like already working, that becomes pretty clear while you're doing it. And at a certain point, you just to say like clarify in more detail and put them on the paper, and really understand whether some duties, responsibilities fall, I don't know, under my role, or they should actually go to next because he maybe has more expertise in that specific area, or he's more interested in doing that than I am. And I think it's really important for all the contributors who decide to take on roles, that those are the roles they really like and enjoy doing, because the environment in the space and the structure of it can get quite difficult. So I think it's very important to really, when you embrace the role, that you really love the role because you'll be doing it for many hours in the day, for many days and months and weeks in a year. I think the beauty of DAOs, and one of the main reasons why I got involved in the space, is the freedom that it offers. And even if there is not a role for you that someone created, you can create a role for yourself, and you can really do something that excites you, that you're skilled at, and something that makes you feel good about yourself, about the work, and about the impact that you're making on the project using those skills. When it comes to power distribution, that's always a tricky one because people are people, whether they be off chain, online or on chain. There is always that power struggle. And that's why I advocate for governance that has some mechanisms built in to kind of mitigate or, the risk a bit of that power struggle in the team. And when it comes to compensation, especially during the period of scaling, I think it's better to think longer term, and that to say like longer term gratification rather than the instant one. And if you're building it to last, not only to get rich overnight and go home. But again, like it really depends on everyone's situation and the background they come from and the to say like the Web2 work experience they have. But again, I think that rather focusing on the longer term gain brings a lot more benefits in terms of compensation than some quick money right away.
I think that I'll just try to speak from like examples because I think that there's like a wide range of possibilities of what can happen in a DAO, and if you see what you're doing is similar to some of the experiences that we've had, then the examples I think will be really maybe specifically helpful. Obviously, Hats is like really directly oriented around creating roles. We associate responsibilities, authority, or power and compensation with a role, and then we find the right people to fill that role, and we were able to create programmatic extensions of the role so that it's granted and revoked to the right people at the right time. And we're starting to explore like if that's a person or if it's a team or sub DAO or if it's an AI agent. Still you need this kind of role-based access to control to give people access to different tools that are necessary, whether that's moving funds around via a safe or an embedded account, or access to specific communication channels, like you could gate Huddle 01 or Telegram chat or Discord channel, being able to share, like speak on behalf of the DAO as its voice, like on a Farcaster shared account, or like a paragraph publication. And also like how do these people get paid, right? So if it's they're going to get reputation points, they're going to get streamed superfluid OP tokens or ETH or DAO shares. If it's like we talked about earlier, we retroactive compensation from the DAO at the end of each season. Tipping, that's more like emergent rather than synthetic approach to doing compensation. I'm going to drop into the chat here Spencer's tweet from yesterday. One of the prototypes we just started, one of the reasons we built Hats, and I was talking about earlier, is like to get commitments, and having someone actually stake some ETH or stake some DAO reputation or DAO tokens is a commitment. It's a hard commitment, and giving the DAO or a subcommittee of the DAO the ability to slash that stake is a really credible commitment, and we think that that's the future of DAOs. So in order to align incentives and get people to behave and well and actually complete the tasks that they said they're going to do, it's a very different paradigm for what DAOs can be than what we saw in the last few years, in the last 5 years. And the general pattern is like, here you stake in order to be able to create a new role. So like Aleksa was saying, this freedom where you come in with a sense of sovereignty and agency and purpose and passion, and you align with the DAO, and you find that intersection, you create a role that lives at that intersection. You stake for the privilege to be able to create that role. When you create that role, the DAO, basically you can make it so the DAO approves the role, or that's permissionless to do. And then you fill the role and you get paid if you fill it. And if you don't fulfill it, then you get slashed. So now it's instead of like, instead of just positive reward or nothing, you now have this range of positive reward to negative reward. And you can have that negative reward include cash or include local context specific reputation, and use that as in combination to establish trust with someone. And as we're talking about onboarding, the closer someone is into the DAO, the more reputation they earn, the more compelling, or basically the more trust they have in that context. Yeah, it's very much like, we prototyped the Raid Guild framework for staking into a commitment. That was the origin of Hats. I can send you the GitHub issue link for that. For when we were prototyping it, you can see the kind of the full thing there. happy to answer your questions. But that's the basic model for how we think about creating roles. Obviously, in hats, roles are tokens, and we see it. What's really kind of cool about articulating a role on chain that has specific authority is the other side of disambiguating. When you say, okay, how do we remain friends in this discussion? It's not like, hey, you have too much power, or hey, we're not decentralized enough, or hey, I don't like you. It's hey, I'm looking at this hat, and you just took this action, but according to the hat, you don't have the authority to do that. Or according to the hat, you have the authority to do this piece, but not that piece. Let's have a specific discussion around the way that this role can evolve to either prevent you from doing that and make sure that someone else does it, or there's a kind of proper process to do it, or that we articulate on the hat more clearly that you do have that authority and the matching responsibility to get it done. And that being able to have these kind of very nuanced disambiguation conversations is much more peaceful, much less emotional, and then also creates sustainability for the long term of the DAO, which we think is really important.
Nick, my next question was going to be examples, which you pretty much just did. So maybe, Aleksa, if you have any examples, but I'd also like to look, this was my next question, but you kind of we're already heading down there. But it'd be interesting to look at this, like compare Cabin versus compare like Aave or something. And like the roles and responsibilities, it's very different DAO. So I don't know, Aleksa, do you have any examples you can think of, or do you want to go into comparing these two DAOs?
I could share what we're doing at our DAO, for example. So we don't really have the clear outcome.
Hey, Aleksa, will you get the audio thing again?
Okay, is it now?
Yeah, good.
Okay, thanks. So I can share how we approach it our DAO. I mean, this is still kind of like in the development. We don't have really specific roles. We have them at the DAO level to say, and at the unit level. It's pretty permissionless, and the units they can develop and they can create their own roles independent of the DAO. The only thing that matters is just to follow some legal stuff that are relevant on the DAO level. We have a consenting community member, which basically means that one has agreed with the DAO agreements, with the policies, etc., etc. So that's again like only for the legal and compliance reasons. But as for the other roles, they're again like pretty permissionless, and the contributors, the members, actually, they can share and they can create their own role within the DAO and within the units they're involved in. And in terms of compensation and to say the governance right as well, we do keep the governance very, very light. And the idea is to approach the contributors and that reputation building, there was a UK based study of classes. So basically it's not only the tokens that you get, it's also your involvement in the DAO and across all the units. And the total contribution is calculated, not the amount of tokens you have or how much compensation you get. It's rather really based on your overall involvement in the DAO, right? So whether you're involved in one unit or you're involved in more units, do you help the DAO on only one thing, or you're involved in several things that support the development of the project? And we are developing some tools as well that help us track involvement of individuals in the DAOs, and it helps us measure as well the decentralization of the DAO. For example, we recently had more contributors joined, and the metrics really showed how, we went from, one or two people being involved to 10 people being involved and doing different tasks in the, like, on Discord, in the units, and in the DAO, and really tracking that decentralization growth, as well as the growth of number of contributors, the responsibilities, and the and overall involvement. So that is one example I could think of.
There's not a lot of good DAOs right now, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, I know it's, I've heard several times when you say, like, we are so early, that, people get mad. We're not early. Like, look at how many projects there is, like how many people and everything. But I think that generally the way we're building DAOs, they're not really DAOs the way we think they are, or how DAOs should be. I don't have anything against it, but if you look realistically, right, like, so many projects are backed by VCs, by investors, and you really have to have that specific structure, and that that really, like, set of rules and requirements that go with VC backed projects, and that will probably change in the future. Surely it will, but for the time being, it's very difficult to build projects in a very true DAO, decentralized way, and to structure roles and responsibilities as such.
Yeah, Arnold, I see your question in the chat. Like, what could it be, right? Like, I think when people started this idea of DAOs, going back to Aleksa's point of, like, okay, I'm a sovereign individual, I'm coming and participating amongst equals and coordinating to try to accomplish a shared goal and shared value. There's two kind of failure modes there. One failure mode was just Molochian coordination failure, where people tried to accomplish something and couldn't get it done because they didn't have roles and responsibilities, because they were rejecting kind of modern organizations too hard, or they, there wasn't like enough incentive to get things done, or there wasn't enough shared resources to accomplish the goal, or get people to focus on it. And then the other coordination failure was just basically like conquering, right? Like this centralization, because there's always motives to centralize, whether internal actors, external actors, trying to get efficiency. Like, most organizations, when they're seeking efficiency, they move towards centralization. Like, running all of the decisions through a CEO is actually a compression algorithm to make decisions faster. It's not necessarily like more fair or like more sovereignty respecting, but it's faster. And if you have a strong profit motive, then that's like a key component. So what could it look like, right? I think what we want is sovereignty respecting technology that actually helps us accomplish coordination around large amounts of shared resources, around large amounts of complexity in a network, to still have kind of emergent motivation and action, while also orienting everyone in the network toward the shared goals, and using the resources most efficiently toward the shared goals. A role-based model to accomplish that is what I currently believe is the best way to do it. And I think increasingly we're going to start to see, like, AI-based CEOs was a popular meme in 2017, like in the 2017 DAO wave. Like, people were calling them decentralized autonomous corporations back then. I got introduced to DAOs in 2017 as AI managed companies. Like, that was the whole concept. And the idea that, like, maybe we can have a single agent that has a God's eye view of the whole organization and supports solving the coordination failures at various scales, but that we collectively contribute to and manage, or are able to veto, or whatever that God's eye view agent. That to me is more interesting, because it's a synthesis of the best parts of having a CEO and the best parts of this new form of sovereignty respecting organizing.
Yeah, and I would just like to add, like to earlier point, is I also encountered that, somehow the Dean DAO stands for disorganized and a complete chaos and mess. And I'm kind of like coming from, like in Web 2, I was working in tech and product teams as a project coordinator. And, I'm coming from the background, like, you need to have some structure, you need to have some process, you need to have at least something to fall back on so you can actually see and test, like, what's working, what's not, and then improve on what's not. And what I noticed that, like, many people in DAOs see processes as, okay, no, this is too Web 2 and this is too controlling and this is too much centralization. Well, in fact, like if you're operating in a decentralized environment, how can you actually scale if you don't have any structure in place? And structure in a DAO can be bad if it's highly centralized and if it's not flexible at all, if it's not agile enough, if it's just like, we do this way and no other way, then that type of structure is bad. But, having something that kind of like leads the way and at the same time offers some sort of like stability, but has enough flexibility is what pushes the project forward. And as you mentioned, Nick, right? Like there is usually that, like, well, moving too much to centralized type of the Web 2 type of companies. Well, sometimes you have to because there are just not people involved. And do you have any other option if you cannot find 3 people who want to allocate 3 hours of their time on a weekly basis to just, or like, come 1 hour to a community call once a week? Like, how many people do not do that? And or at least like comment on a proposal on a forum, like share your opinion, share your feedback, if cast your vote, like whatever, right? Like show that you're involved and that the project does not have really to rely only on 1 or 2 people. And more than often you really don't have more than a few people involved, like actively or semi-actively in the project. So you have to go to that centralization, so you don't have to really trash the project. And centralization, it can be good and it can be bad. Centralization, the corporate way of centralization is a bad way to do it, but it's not the only way to do it. And I think the more people get involved in DAOs and the more accountability there is within the DAO and the people contributing, we will have less need of that more centralized structure than we have now.
Yeah, I'm a bit, maybe I've taken beatings in the DAO space and feel like that's been created more edge in me, but I'm a bit utilitarian now when it comes to DAOs. I think that the only way that we win in this space is by being more performant than traditional organizations. I just dropped a post that I wrote a few years ago, which is kind of like my core thesis for the whole DAO space, which is basically that DAOs will be able to outperform traditional organizations. And that's the reason that we should work on them. And I call that the efficiency parity hypothesis. Basically, that it's inevitable that DAOs outperform traditional organizations because the learning rate in DAOs is faster because they're networks, and then the learning rate between DAOs compounds on the learning rate in DAOs because they're networks of networks. But we're in this like wicked DAO lull right now where the overall organization learning rate is low. One of the reasons we built hats as like this composability primitive that all DAOs can use and is a public good that's critically neutral that people can feel comfortable to use as interoperability layer is so that everyone can share learnings across the way. And you get, okay, I saw Raid Guild do this, I'm going to fork that and use it here. I saw that Treasure DAO is doing this for their delegation Arbitrum, I'm going to use that over here in Optimism. And it's very easy to like take things from one organization and use them somewhere else. And I think that combining this with automation, like the killer app here is that we actually can have widely distributed ownership and sovereignty respecting meritocracies that actively integrate AI, like Devin, the engineer that like produces software. We need to be able to integrate those into our organizations in a way that doesn't just accumulate all of the profits and ownership to a single person or a small group of people. And if we don't figure that out, then we risk being in a totalitarian regime controlled by tech's very small number of tech CEOs and governments. So I'm very excited about a world where we as human agents and AI agents that represent our values and are aligned with our values can harmonize within software-based programmable organizations and use that as a basis for accomplishing all of our goals, whether that's to create profits by producing products in a marketplace or creating community or creating parties. Like all of those things are going to be managed by DAOs and managed much more efficiently by DAOs. But we still have to run tens of thousands of experiments to figure out the right organizing structures to be able to do that efficiently.
That actually sounds really exciting to me. And I love that we get to, the three of us, like I'm obviously the super hippie and Nick's probably wishing I would like have some kind of structure and we get to still work together. And I love that so much.
You don't know how much of a hippie I am. I'm a hippie in disguise.
In disguise. I think you are actually. You had beach yoga this morning.
It's true.
Yeah. Okay, now we're going to take advantage of having some legal governance expertise here. What do contributors need to look out for when taking on roles, responsibilities, governance power, and compensation? We're getting paid in crypto and then we're voting with it.
Yeah, that can be a bit of a problem. So, I mean, in terms of like taking on roles and responsibilities, as I mentioned earlier, right? I think personally, of course, doesn't have to apply to everyone, is that it's important that you really like enjoy and believe in the project, and that is in the line with what you like, enjoy doing, and the skills you either have or want to develop. And that's kind of like the emotional aspect, the idealistic aspect of it. But coming to legal, right, then we cannot be as emotional, and we rather have to be a lot more rational and talk to, and at least seek some professional legal and tax advice. Of course, it really depends on jurisdiction, but um, as we all know, there have been some cases in the space where, I mean, it's a well-known case, right? Like for the DAO, where basically anyone who voted on the governance proposals, the SEC deemed them liable for the accusations they had towards the project that was mainly aimed at the founders, but the ruling said, well, you use your governance rights, so you directly impact the direction of the project, and there is some profit involved based on that voting. I think it's really important, how do you get engaged as a contributor, whether you do that as an individual or you do that through a company. Because again, like depending on the jurisdiction, but the two carry different set of responsibilities and liabilities, both legally and in terms of taxes. Then also check, right, like where is if the project, if the DAO has a legal wrapper or has an entity incorporated somewhere, are there any tax liabilities associated? Is there a double taxation as well involved? Again, like depends on the setup, but it's one of considerations. Then when it comes to the governance rights being tied to the token that you get paid in, right? So if we have, Aleksa DAO and I get paid in Aleksa tokens, but those the same tokens, are my governance rights. So, in my opinion, I don't think that's just like a fair approach, because if the whole idea of DAOs and the future they bring and the present that they can change is that we can all work for DAOs, get compensated in the DAO tokens, use those tokens to pay for the bills and everything. And I mean, in an ideal world, right? So, but is it fair that if I sell my tokens to pay for my living, and that job is my full-time job, that I just lose my governance rights and I cannot have less voting power on the proposals? Usually, when I work with projects, I advise on having totally two different set of tokens just for those purposes, because I don't think it's fair that if I work my ass off for a DAO and I have an X amount of tokens, and then someone just comes in and buys the bigger amount of, the same amount of tokens, he has the same voting power as I do. And what happens, if I sell and they buy more, then they don't care about the project, like they can hijack the vote anytime, I mean overthrow the vote anytime. So I think those are some of the important things to consider when actually building the governance and designing the token. As someone coming from as a project builder, instigator, and on the other hand, like if I come in as a contributor, do I use my voting, or do I lose my voting rights if I sell the tokens? And again, like everyone has different financial capacities, but I still don't think that should be a measurement applied across projects, which I, for example, have experienced that there is, I don't want to name the DAO. They said, well, if you sell the tokens, that means you're not loyal to the DAO and to the cause. And there were people contributing their time, like, I don't know, 30 hours a week, 20 hours a week, which is not a small amount of time. And I think that's a pretty big sign of loyalty. And there were, some interesting messages on Discord where, like older contributors, like senior contributors were bashing and talking crap about people who spend so much time working, but they just don't have other option, to pay the bills and to sell the tokens. So I think that's an important element to consider, like that's DAO culture. That really, how does it approach that? If you come in as a contributor and as someone who wants to take on certain responsibilities, and you have governance rights within the project. And specifically about compensation, I mean, are you happy with the compensation offered? Is that something that you can live with? If you, or it's not. I don't think there is anything specific that I could comment on that. Just besides, that's a really personal choice and decision to make, whether to accept or not the compensation that goes with the role. But I know it shouldn't be based on the jurisdiction, right? Because what some DAOs do, depending where you're based, they offer you the the amount of money, right? So if you're based in the US, you will for the same role get a lot more money than if you're based in Africa, because you're based in Africa. So I think that's one of the things that really needs to and should change.
Great coverage, top to bottom. So I don't really have much to add, but I'll just drop one link here, which is Spencer wrote a post for DAO House compensation, which I think handles this kind of cash versus tokens challenge without creating so much sell pressure on the token. And I still think it's one of the best proposals in this direction in the industry. So I definitely would take a look at that.
This was one of my very first like DAO contributor experiences. Like the Spencer governance process. He also got on the phone with me via DAO House and was like, this, I said, what is a token? What is the difference between an ERC20, like a wrapped token, and an unwrapped token? And yeah. Okay. One more question. Do you mind doing one more? Or do you want to move into the workshop? One more. So how do you look out for the community as a whole and for each member of the community, especially as it's growing? Like, how do we consider the intention and well-being as the community as a whole and each individual? It seems really challenging.
Yeah, the point of a DAO is that you can have the top level governance surface respect everybody's kind of involvement. Like if you have a thing like rage quit or everyone has voice. So there's this old piece called Exit Voice and Loyalty. I think it's an academic paper. Maybe Nathan Schneider probably references it in Exit to Community. The idea that at the top level you can leave. And also you can vote. This is like the ultimate fulfillment of Exit Voice and Loyalty. And looking out for the whole in a democratic way is, I think, that's an old Churchill quote, right? Democracy is the worst form of government except for all the others. I think that we're pushing forward the boundaries, the cutting edge of democracy, programmatic, internet native democracy, and we haven't solved it. But if we get it right, then I think that might be one of the best ways to look out for the whole that humanity's come up with to date. The only other question is like, how do you make sure you get the right people in the room, right? Like if you have to have some sort of interiority and exteriority to your organization to make it good. Otherwise you get kind of like people voting for the wrong reasons, capture vectors, over financialization, things like that. So that would be kind of the next aspect of this question that I would probably explore further.
I think like everything would make sense, right? Like you're really just trying to build that initial layer of a healthy environment for the environment.
Sorry, Aleksa, having a little trouble hearing you.
Sorry about that. So what I think is that it's really important to build that initial healthy environment and really teach the community how to be supportive, to be accountable, and to really embrace that peer-to-peer environment where you, for example, mentioned have that high level governance that says be respectful of different cultures, of different everything. Everyone has different opinion. You don't have to kill each other over that, right? And when you build that into the community, and if there is some rude or angry conversation kicks off, right? People who are present will respond in a respectful manner and will be like, okay, so let's not continue this, or don't don't be rude to each other, don't insult each other on the basis of, I don't know, religion, skin color, and whatever and whatnot, what's happening, right? Like, and the more you people have intervene in such a manner, right, like you really show the culture of the environment, and those that now become some sort of like a minority in terms of rude behavior, they just don't continue that type of conversation because they are outnumbered, and it's just not the type of conversation that is supportive. I think that could be one of the ways to do that. Then, putting on my legal hat, really, making the project as legally sound as possible. There is no perfect solution in the current regulatory environment, but there are ways how you can legally protect the community and the project to a certain degree, and limit liabilities of individuals, and rather have that a legal wrapper that offers that protection. Also provide some quick and very easy to understand resources. Okay, so these are the things to pay attention to for legal and taxes, and just kind of offer that platform to learn something that very important. And I think when people in the community feel like they're cared for, that then they project that further on others and on the project as well.
Thank you both very, very much. A lot of really helpful perspective. Before we transition into the workshop, just because of my operator error, which I'm really great at, with the recording, do you mind just kind of going into your background a little bit, and then also sharing like how we can learn about your projects that you're focusing on now? Do you want to go ahead first, Nick?
Yeah, so Hats is at hatsprotocol.xyz. We also post a bunch on Twitter and Farcaster. We're increasingly migrating to Farcaster. I think we're just at Hats Protocol on both of those. And then if you want to join our community and join our community Telegram, it's community.hatsprotocol.xyz, and you sign the community agreements on chain, and then you can claim a hat in order to actually get access to the Telegram group and contribution opportunities and things like that. So yeah, we'd love to have you, and it's nice meeting everyone here.
Thank you. I'm involved in RNDAO. It's rndao.io. You can find us on Twitter and on Discord. Telegram is not really something that we're using, but we're super active on Discord. And to say something more. Sorry, I forgot the whole question.
Just yeah, a little bit. Yeah, what you like, a little bit of your background, and then where we can learn more about what you're working on.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Sorry about that. So as I mentioned, my general focus is legal and governance, and helping DAOs establish the operations framework. I'm currently involved in RNDAO as a governance contributor, and I also teach about DAOs, decentralization, tokenization at universities and some online courses. And I also do a lot of writing on DAOs, mainly from my personal experience, and some legal stuff from the actual current regulatory developments. I am on almost all socials, but not really Web3 type of platform, but good for my ADHD is LinkedIn. So I use that mostly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You want to move on to a workshop?
Sure. Will we have like a quick break or something?
Well, there's like 40. Oh, go ahead, Elizabeth.
Like maybe just a 3-5 minute break. I know a lot of people left, but maybe just like, because we went over, maybe just a short break.
Well, I will stay here.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll stay here.
Okay, I'm gonna go get some water. I'll be right back.
Okay. I won't sing.
Water sounds good. I'll be back too.
Okay.
We're given our voices to use. I am in full favor of anywhere for any reason. Like, it doesn't matter if you have a good singing voice or not. It is a de-stress, like, it is a coping skill. I am all for it. Go ahead.
Oh, we are so doing karaoke. DAO karaoke is the future. Have you done karaoke with DAO people yet?
No, I've actually never done karaoke, period. I'm
Oh my god! Oh my god!
You.
Oh my god, woman! What? What?
I'm really, it's like one of those things I'm really afraid to do, even though I sing all the time at home, in the car.
Just drink a lot.
I don't even drink. I don't drink at all. I think maybe that's one of the reasons I'm scared to do it, because I have to like actually get all my actual gumption up to do it.
Oh, okay. Well, I do have to.
Start drinking.
Yes. That's instruction manual. Drink, get drunk, do karaoke.
Yeah, but I just had my 16th AA anniversary this past week, so I haven't had a drink in a really long time.
Oh, congratulations!
Well, that's amazing. Amazing.
Okay. Here's an interesting point that I just heard at ETH Berlin. Someone was telling me that AA is like one of the best DAOs.
So Nick, let me talk to you very seriously about this for a second. My husband and I, who's also in AA, and people know that generally, he's not from an AA family like I am. Like, I'm third generation AA, back to like original founders, which is 89 years old this week. It's 89 years old.
Oh.
So AA is the best example of an anarchical, decentralized organization ever. The only thing is there's obviously no on-chain component to it. We actually have several theses written up for talks about why AA is a good decentralized model. The only issue is, and this is the core issue, the reason AA works is because you are bound by death, suicide, or institutionalization. Right? That is the only reason AA actually works, where other organizations' attempts at decentralizing fail, because you don't need to do it in order to physically enable your life to move on. And this is the core tenet. You need something so powerful to bind you that the alternative is death, suicide, or institutionalization. And that's why it doesn't work outside for other reasons. Now, you can shrink that. I mean, we have a lot of thoughts on this, and I have been saying AA is the only form of anarchy that ever has worked, ever. And we have a lot of thoughts. So if anybody really wants to get on this topic, we can go hard and we can really think through, because it really is the best form of individual groups organizing in perpetuity, right? We saw this through the COVID changes. We've seen this as tech has evolved. AA is adaptable in a way that I've never seen another group adaptable. But again, it's because you're sort of bound by this, I will die otherwise, which is not the case. Like, oh, if I don't get a paycheck from this organization, like I can get a job somewhere else. Or if I lose this election, I can run in another election, or I can do something different, right? There's nothing that really binds people. Communism is the closest thing, but of course it didn't work because of corruption, right? And so small group organizing with a greater purpose. Anyway, I do want to get some water, but we can talk. And if there are other people you know who are thinking through this model, I would love to be connected to them, because like I said, Oliver and I have thought about making proposals for DevCon, for talks at different conventions about this, because the functionality is so in line with a lot of what DAOs are thinking.
Cool. I will make a group chat right now.
Okay. I'll be right back.
Does anyone else want to take a few minutes?
I need to grab a little water too. But I'm only going to be able to stay until the half-hour mark. What's the best way? How do you want to handle the rest of the time?
Okay. We were thinking of, I don't know, maybe someone here wants to workshop their DAO that they're building. and see, maybe make a tree of it.
Sounds good.
Does anyone want to make a hats tree with roles and responsibilities of their DAO right now?
So we maybe Nick
I can still hear a little bit.
Nick, I don't know if you want to. I don't know if you're developed enough. We could do it with Education DAO because we've sort of thought through it a little bit. And then H. Besso, I want to say your name is Hannah, but that is just my own. No, Umberto, right? I just totally feel like I can't remember exactly.
Yeah, Umberto.
Umberto. I don't know why I thought Hannah. I think it's because I knew a Hannah Belcito and you're H. Beso, one. So in my head, it translates as Hannah Belcito, but Umberto. Yes, I remember now. Sorry. Apologies.
No worries.
If you guys
My last name is Beso, that's why.
If you do Education DAO, I know, Elizabeth, you've been thinking about regulations and how to set it up smart from the beginning. So having Aleksa here too would be, I think, really helpful.
Yeah. We could do. Yeah, the main issue with the hats, how I don't understand how hats can work, is at what point do you actually assign a hat, and how do you change someone's hat? And then if we're compensating, we're many times, I think, post facto going to be compensating. Mm-hmm. So I guess you could say retroactive, but I don't like the phrase. I like post facto.
I have to say I have like 8 hats, and I don't know if I've used them or not.
I have 2 hats. I just signed up. I have a Spork Staker hat and a community member hat.
But I don't know if I've ever used them. Like, how do I know if I've used my hat?
I have a community member hat.
That's a good question.
I've never used it.
Yeah, so Nick, my big question with Education DAO, our hats, potential hats tree, is in order, okay, so somebody, say Umberto writes a tutorial, like writes a piece on, I don't know, L2s, because we're thinking about writing a piece on various L2s. And it has to be edited by somebody who is also a Spanish speaker because it's written in Spanish. That could be me but ideally it would be somebody who is a native Spanish speaker first, right? I translate into English because English is my A and Spanish is my B. Ideally, I would have somebody whose Spanish is an A. So let's say Oliver, that's my husband. Let's say Oliver is the editor. It can't be published until Oliver has edited it. Mm-hmm. And then it has to be published by somebody with a publisher hat, right? So we have editor, we have contributor, editor or writer, editor, and publisher. Mm-hmm. All of those should be different people. Now, they could be the different hats for each, right? So like Oliver could write a piece in Spanish, Umberto could edit it, and I could publish both of them, right? I could write a piece in English, Oliver could edit it, and Umberto could publish it. So they're interchangeable, right? The point is that they're being cross-checked, that nothing is just written and published without being going through at least one check. So how do we make sure that chain of events actually happens?
Yeah.
We can have different hats. How can we make sure that actually that happens?
I think that what we want to break down is the authority and the responsibility. Mm-hmm. So part of it is like we have a process where someone has to write it, someone has to edit it, and someone has to publish it, right? Mm-hmm. So if you have a piece of software that has this kind of pipeline built into it, and that everyone uses sign in with Ethereum, mm-hmm. They have the hats in their accounts, and then via being signed in with the right hat, they can actually, anyone who has a writer hat can write something and ask for it to be edited. And then anyone who has the editor hat can edit it. And then anyone who has the publisher hat can check it and publish it.
How do you make sure you're wearing the right hat when you're taking the action? Or is it automatic?
You, the front end that is where we're doing this hypothetical funnel should only allow someone who has the right hat in order to take the action. It's a roles-based access control system.
Right, but if Umberto can be a writer and an editor and a publisher, if all of us can be writer, editor, and publishers for each other, how do we make sure when Umberto is signing in and submitting a draft, that when Oliver signs in, he's acting as an editor, not a publisher?
Well, you were like in an editor UI, right? So you're doing something that is requiring that you have specific things that only editors can do. And then maybe also at the application layer, you're restricting people from editing things that they also were the writer on.
Okay, so this is mostly a front end application issue.
Well, it's a question of the hats are the permissioning system, and then where are you actually using the permissions, right? So if you plug hats into Charmverse, you can say, okay, this person has write access on this page, and then if they send it into this folder, they no longer have write access; they have only read access. But then some other group of people, based on another hat, have write access on that page.
The idea is that we would be able to do it directly in Paragraph, but we don't know how yet to do that because we think Paragraph would have to create a custom integration with hats to be able to do that. Is that correct?
We do know Colin, so it's possible, and EC Wireless and Maurice are already working with reaching out to Paragraph to try to make it happen. So we'll see. But yeah, I mean, Paragraph is a Web 2 based editor.
Right.
So if you, although the publishing happens on Web 3, if you want to actually pull the permissioning system into Web 3, then that's a decision Paragraph has to make at their app level.
Yeah, I think that's the idea is that everything we published is backed up, right? That's why we wanted to publish on Paragraph. Right now, the challenge is the workflow of getting the writers to the editors to getting it published and then paying the contributor for what they write, which is basically all centralized at the moment. None of that is centralized. And that's what we want to decentralize that workflow. And so we have roles in the sense that we tell everybody what they, but there's no way of disambiguating the human to actually do the thing to give every one of them those permissions. So I think that's where the hats protocol would be useful for us. And then we'd be able to track, right, who has published what. We'd be able to track how much money they are made. I think it would take a lot of the human error element out of scaling, because this is a scaling issue, right? If we only have 5 writers, then whatever, it doesn't take that much time to do it. But if the idea is that we have hundreds of writers, or at least dozens of writers, then it becomes really difficult and time consuming to project manage each of those publications. Yeah,
definitely. I don't think that there's like an app that out there right now that really does the full Web3 permissioning funnel. I just linked a post from the DIA, which is an old DAO project, which was mostly like writing and curation of tweets. So that's like an early prototype of the same type of funnel. We used a Discord bot in order to enable people to do this in a decentralized way. It was decentralized politically, but not decentralized technically because we were using Discord and Twitter. But what I'm really excited about is that I think this type of mechanism, we're like, days or weeks away from shipping these types of mechanisms for Farcaster, which is going to be actually decentralized. And once we do it on Farcaster, like having a shared Farcaster account and being able to do like Web3 native curation and publishing from that shared account of casts, you could also do that of like screenshot essays or something. But I think
can you token gate that? Can you token gate various things on Farcaster?
Yeah.
Okay. Of course you can. I'm sorry. I don't know why I asked that.
No, it's all good. That's kind of the point. Yeah.
And maybe that makes more sense than using Paragraph.
I I think it's a good starting place.
Yeah, is okay. Okay, we'll have to think through. And then, so Aleksa, what we're a 501c3, and what's it called? Incorporating in Delaware as a traditional non-stock corporation. And we don't seem to plan on changing that, right? The idea is that we can still have the for-profit arm do whatever sort of contracts or work, content as a service work, but then we have the nonprofit arm so that people can donate, for tax deductible reasons and whatever. The one issue we were wondering from a legal perspective about compensating is if we compensate contributors in an honorarium style, can we basically just do that and not have to report that as contractor work because we're just giving them honorariums?
Like, would that be from the for-profit or the nonprofit entity?
From the nonprofit.
Yeah, I think that is doable, right? Like, I could probably connect you with a US-based lawyer who could give you like a few, tips and tricks. But from what I understand is that you can have some sort of an agreement between the nonprofit and the people that perform certain work, to get some sort of like rewards for what they're doing, right? But it's not any type of salary.
Right.
It's just some like small, like certain type of compensation, right? But since it's this US law, I cannot be like, I'm not 100% sure, but I can find out and let you know. And may I ask, like, why did you opt for Delaware?
Well, we haven't actually filed the paperwork yet, but because it's the simplest and it's the cheapest, if you have a different suggestion, like, we are open to that. And the part of the idea with the honorarium is that way we can pay educators and writers anywhere they live in the world.
Yeah.
Like, because the whole point of Education DAO is that we're creating educational material that is credibly neutral, right? We're not shilling your chain or your product in the language culturally and linguistically appropriate to the group that is learning, right? So the idea is that, like, my Albanian friends can actually read this in Albanian, right?
Okay.
And that Turkish friends can read it in Turkish. And our friends in Ghana can read it, and because we don't have enough non-English educational material, period. And all of the most docs on most projects are in English, and they're horrible. Docs are just so awful. They're just so awful. And so we want to create opportunities for people who are not in English speaking communities to write, with taking out the costs of running all of the subscriptions, and we want to create the infrastructure for them to be able to do that, so that they can actually afford to do it, right? We don't want everyone having to create their own DAO or their own nonprofit, right? We want to be able to funnel all of those educators to use the structure that we're creating.
Okay, that's awesome.
Especially given the cost, right, of, like, maybe Google Suite doesn't cost that much in dollars to me, but it's a fuck ton of money, for somebody in Madagascar. Like, that's too much money. Can't afford to do that, right? So that's sort of the vision.
Did you get the nonprofit status from Google for the
No.
workspace? Just apply and you get everything for free from Google. You just need to submit the certificate that
we don't have our nonprofit certificate yet.
Yet, okay.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like, I did that for the Belgium-based nonprofit I was like leading and managing, and you get everything for free from Google. And you also can get some. It used to be like 10K in Google Ads, and you can get volunteers via Google to help you like they get students who need to get some practice in marketing and in ads and the like. So, and you get that 10K budget, and they connect you basically.
Okay.
And
Yeah, I'll look into that too.
yeah, and for Canva as well, and there are a bunch of other almost every tool has that nonprofit program as well, and they give you either completely off or 50% discount on the subscriptions.
Right.
That includes newsletters, design tools, project management tools, etc., etc.
Right. Umberto, do you want to? I don't want to take all the rest of this time. Do you want to workshop anything on your DAO with hats?
Yes. So thank you for moving the time. I was not prepared for this. However, my past Umberto prepared something 3 months ago, so maybe we can use it. Although I have it in Spanish, so I will need to translate in real time. It says here that for Decorate Score, we have talked about HATS protocol to assign three roles: clients, token holders, and workers. And within workers, we have two sub roles that are I don't know the translation for this. Maybe Lisi, oficial de cumplimiento, like a compliance officer could be.
Yeah.
And commercial manager. Those will be. Let me go through the presentation. Okay, so one thing about the worker's role or hat is that we are using a colleague letter of understanding, which is what people are committing to deliver and what they need for delivering that, which includes compensation, but also like working with somebody else or like any resources. And the people that can approve those commitment letters of understanding are other workers. So this happens when a first set of workers have been selected, and then the new workers are selected by the already workers, so that they know what things are needed and who they want to work with. So that's the logic there.
Okay.
Yeah,
let's try to do these one at a time. So there's two approaches to solve this one. The first one is what we do in our community is we have what we call a agreement eligibility module. So there's an on-chain signed agreement in order to be eligible to get a hat. Ours is very light. We forked FWB's community agreements, and then just asking people to read them and agree to them to participate in the community. It's not like a legal agreement, but you could easily use it to contain a legal agreement if that's what you wanted. But that's more permissionless. Like that's like anyone can join the community as long as they sign the agreement. The other way would be you could have a subcommittee of people who are the admin. So you set up a multi-sig of N people or a sub-DAO of however many workers you want, and then set a minimum threshold. Say, okay, we need 3 workers to agree that this new person can become a worker, and then mint them the hat from the safe. And that's a very straightforward, you have a manual process of evaluating if the person has signed the agreement, if they're, if they're a really good fit. But then you can actually just, you could be 3 out of 1,000 people if you wanted, but 3 people on the multi-sig who are able to add new workers to the collective.
Sounds great. Sounds that it's already done there.
Yeah, pretty easy to do. All you need is well, a module that we call Hat Signer Gate. So I'm just going to keep dropping links in the chat as long as that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's let's see, yeah, that's this link here. We can help you set this up. It's a little bit more complicated than just using the app. But this Hat Signer Gate allows you to deploy a Zodiac module onto a Gnosis safe that allows you to use hats to gate signing authority on that safe. So you could, if you wanted to have 1,000-person multisig with the signing threshold of 3 or 5, you could set that up so that people would gain signing authority on that safe by having the hat, and even have that be recursive. Of course, you have to worry about collusion if someone starts trying to mint hats to themselves, or if they gain 3 Sybil accounts that can then mint as many hats as they want. That would be a problem. But basically, like the pattern of get worker hat, become sub DAO member or multi-sig signer on worker multi-sig, which is an admin of the worker hat, and then like use that as a way to continue growing the group. It's very, very, very doable with hats.
So there is a way also for example, clients for us is anybody that has a decentralized credit score of us and that has requested and got approved a loan. So can we make, through what you are suggesting right now, make them signers of a safe also?
Yeah. Is the loan on chain?
Yeah.
Cool. All we would have to do is create an eligibility module. Like the agreement eligibility is one module. We have one for ERC20s. If you have a threshold of ERC20s, we have one for Gitcoin Passport. There's about 15 or so. You would just have to create a module that looks for the information about the loan, and then you could make the hat permissionlessly claimable by anyone who has that loan or whatever represents the loan on chain. I think that would be actually very interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yes, because the idea with this part of the credit score is that clients get let's say cash back, but in a locked part of their smart wallet. They receive smart wallet, and in a part of their smart wallet they receive cash back to be used for collateral, which that collateral gives them power to have lower rates as they keep going, right?
Yeah.
But they cannot withdraw that collateral. It's for them to have lower rates. But we initially were thinking about making participatory budgets for clients so that they can decide what to do about a collective budget, because they are all micro businesses from Mexico, from specific districts, so that they can decide what to do to, let's say, improve the market where they are located. Like market, not in the sense of markets, but in a physical market.
Yeah.
So this could be used in that way, because if they are signers, they comply the eligibility criteria, then they can be signers of a specific safe that we define, right? Yeah, cool.
This is
How do people get that money then off chain if they do want to put a new roof on, or if they want to repave a section of it and then actually turn it into fiat?
With Bitso.
Okay. Nice.
They get this card. We facilitate it, and they get it. They get it in crypto, but when they spend it, it's in Mexican pesos, and they can withdraw it in ATM also.
That's sick. I would like to help.
Oh, stop! Hold! Pause! Shut the front door. Stop. So this is a MasterCard?
What?
It's a MasterCard?
Yeah, it's a MasterCard.
And what is it called?
Bitso.
BITZO?
Wait. Yeah, BITSO.
Okay, because you know where this is really important? Where this is...
Wait, I don't hear, wait. There you can see it? Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you say?
Yeah, Bitso, Bitso.
Yeah.
Okay, because this is like the big problem in Afghanistan with all of my friends. They can't withdraw any crypto. They can't off ramp it into local currency, and so like they're like, well, it doesn't matter because we can't get them. We can't get the cash, and my family needs the cash. So
Impact Market has a solution for that they have already applied in 2 or 3 countries in Africa. They have mobile bankers,
Yeah.
which they have cash, and they can be the peer-to-peer point for crypto on and off ramping.
Okay, I don't want to hijack the rest of this meeting about that, but we'll talk about that later.
Really cool.
Yeah, we have tested this for with 10 credits already, and people have paid back in crypto because as the credits are in crypto, they need to pay back in crypto, not in Mexican pesos, right? So
Right.
we have tested and it worked. People paid, and we don't have yet the decred score thing. The decred score is just a concept, but we are developing it. And one thing that we thought was HATS protocol, but just because I saw and read some things about it, and so this could be it, but didn't go through yet. However, we are now going to apply to an Arbitrum grant status, and for finishing the code, and would be dope to include there the HATS protocol part.
Yeah, we're big fans of Arbitrum. So yeah, I'd be happy to help. We were talking about under collateralized lending using reputation scores yesterday. Obviously, it's not something we're going to build, but we're just thinking about like this massive opportunity, and it's very propitious timing to be hearing about this today. So yeah, let's follow up offline, and we can do a deeper dive to think about the tree and like the designer gate deployments and how the app supports your users too.
Umberto, have you worked with Ethic Hub at all for any, like, are they using any of these products?
Any what?
Any of these products?
Which products?
Like, are like this credit card, for example, or the way that you're structuring the project you're talking about. I feel like this is like very similar in some ways to what they're doing with farmers, but like one layer like off, right? Like one step off. And I feel like there could be some overlap here. So anyway, I can also.
But I didn't get the question.
Do you work with Gabriela at all?
No. I talked with her, Gabriela of Impact Market or of Ethic Hub.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have talked with her many times, but that's it. We don't work together.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, just to like a final note about this, this was the outcome of a research paid by Arbitrum DAO and RNDAO. And then the outcome was we need to develop a decred score that takes a real life reputation into crypto, so that people can access DeFi without having any on-chain reputation that it's the common thing right now. But like, for example, I am in Web3 since 2017, and my credit score with decentralized credit score solutions is not good because I have never asked a credit in crypto, right? So I have that on-chain history, but these people have lots of real life reputation that can be taken to crypto, as many financial institutions are using those data to give them credits, and we're just tokenizing them. With reclaim protocol is the key there. Yeah,
it's really cool. I think that this is like, it's motivating to me because it actually solves a real pain point for real people. Like I think there's some indignance in me, and people just looping DeFi yields and meme coin BS, and like it's just, of course there's something interesting there, but just also like so removed from like real pain in the world, and I think it's really exciting to like get down to the brass tacks there.
And it's like we can drop at around 90% the interest rate for people in real life,
Right.
and that's just life changing.
Yep.
Sweet.
So you can get what currencies do or what cryptocurrencies do you work with? Like
USDC.
USDC. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
We would love to have a Mexican one, but Bitso does not manage Tether Mexican pesos, because that's the only stable Mexican peso that it's like a big one. There are several ones, but they are like very small ones. But Bitso has not yet onboarded Tether Mexican pesos. That will make things easier.
Yeah.
But well, the fluctuation between the Mexican peso and the US dollar is not that big.
Okay.
So yeah. Well, maybe can we do? We have, I think, just a few minutes. Can we just do maybe demo of how to start on HATS protocol?
Yeah, for sure.
I have never entered there. Just read things about it, and that's it.
Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Cool. So this is the app. You can see some examples here of other trees. Just if you want to like poke around and see like how people are using, Signergate, Signergate, for example, or just like the way that trees are structured. You can flip the tree if you're more into trees than top-down organizations. Every hat is going to have some specific wearers, and then also responsibilities and authorities. So these are cards that open up to give more details. This is each one of these is a token. So this is like token ID 15. This is token ID 15.1. That's kind of like parsed in a way that in hex it's going to look pretty different, but it just gives you a way to identify all of these different tokens across the whole protocol.
Nice.
And each one will have, you can see like that this has like a one wearer here, and this is their address, and then this is the admin rights over the hat. So who can actually mint the hat to people, who can remove wearers or like revoke the hat, and then who can activate and deactivate the hat. You get a little bit of the history here. This is our proto DAO. As an example, it's a little bit wide. So you have like we were talking earlier about the community member hat. So when you go to community.hatsprotocol.xyz, it'll pop open a D form and connect your wallet, and then once you sign the agreement on the next page, then you can claim this hat, and the hat gives you access to the Telegram group, the Charmverse, the forum, and then some of these are like off-chain, right? So Telegram is gated by Collabland, so that's like token gated. The access to the town hall is just like, that's just like socially enforced. It's not actually technically enforced right now. And then you can see like all the people who have this hat in their wallet.
Yeah, I have a question.
Sure.
So the third layer, ecosystem, tech, strategy, growth, resourcing, they say like all of those have no wearers. So how do people get that hat?
Oh, this is these are groups. So we didn't do it quite right here.
Okay.
It's a little bit clearer in Raid Guild. We actually did this before we shipped the UI functionality this is the current supply and the max supply. This is like 1 of 1. This is 3 of 4. 0 of 1. What if you set the max supply of a hat to 0, so it's 0 of 0, then it just makes it a group in our app, and that's like an opinionated thing that we did to kind of like make it clearer, and it respects kind of holacracy principles and things like that. But each hat, you can like every hat can be minted by its admins, so long as the person who's it's getting minted to is eligible. So I can break that down a little bit more clearly, but like for the community member, the eligibility is based on claiming if someone has signed the agreement. So what this contract here is called Agreement Claims Header, and what it literally says is if this person has signed the agreement in the form that I just showed you, and there's a signature of that person signing the agreement, then they are allowed to claim this hat by interacting with the claims at contract that is worn by the admin hat here. It's a little bit complicated, and whenever we do a V2 of the protocol, it'll be a little bit simpler. But basically, you could think about this as like an autonomous admin that is able to grant hats to people when they want them if they meet the criteria. If it's a manual admin, like the proto DAO here can mint any of these hats that it wants via a DAO vote. So this is like, this is a Moloch DAO. Excuse me. Here you can see some of the proposals that are like going through it here. That instead you could set this up as a safe, you could set this up as a governor DAO or any kind of DAO, and that means that by a DAO proposal it can mint any of these hats to individual people.
Okay.
Nick, do you see the question in the chat about the library?
I didn't see it yet. It's I think it is D3JS. I think it's called org-chart.js. Hold on. Yeah, this library here. Yeah, for sure. It's a very customizable library. We did some really great design work with our friends at We3 to help get this done. Okay, so one other thing I want to show here is like, so you're asking a question like, how do you actually get started? A lot of it is going to happen in the edit mode. So like, obviously we built this tree up over like 3 seasons. We like incrementally added more pieces and more automations. When you first start hats, you're just gonna get a top hat, which is a single node. So I'll show you like a recent one that I was making. You can see all the hats that you have. So I was like testing a new shared account concept on, that's not the one I want. I want this one. New shared account concept on Forecaster. So this is a very simple tree. It's like all direct admins. There's only one authority that's connected to the tree, which is the ability to tip and manage a tipping bot in Forecaster. When I first get to this, like when I first create a hats tree, all I'm getting is this original top hat, and then when I go into edit mode, I can add additional hats like that.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what's basically I get like a shopping cart full of changes. I can save these, and then you see the shopping cart here on the right, which is like highlighting the changes that are here. If I want to share this with my DAO, I can press export and get a JSON file that people can read and import here. And then if I want to deploy it, like if I'm wearing the top hat, I can just deploy it directly from my wallet. I'm not going to do it because I don't want to mess up this tree at the moment. But just to show you, you can deploy it here. Or I can open the transaction call data, and I can use this to create a DAO proposal or like a multi-sig transaction that actually executes these changes if a multi-sig or a DAO is wearing this top hat. So it's really like meant to be DAO native, and this is like every change that you might want to make can happen behind the scenes here. Like, who are the people who are wearing the hat? You can upload a CSV, the specific responsibilities and authorities that are connected to a hat. You can list them out here and add links. You can add images if you want. And then the last piece, I know we're going to run out of time, but if you want to customize the eligibility criteria, you can add an address that is able to manually revoke the hat, or you can make this automatic. And then there's a whole nother panel that'll pop up to do like the agreement eligibility that we were talking about earlier, or like ERC eligibility means that you have to have a minimum balance of an ERC20 token. You can do elections fully on chain here, which we have some documentation. I could show you how to do that. And then this is a registry that's managed by our DAO. So this is actually a decentralized, curated list of modules. But you could write any smart contract and plug that address in here, and then it would work to look for the logic. So if you want to write one for someone has received a loan, and the way of looking at that on chain is by the following logic, and then deploy that contract, you could just plug that contract directly in here, and then it would allow people to claim the hat if they met that criteria. So I know that was a very quick demo, but wondering if there's any other questions before we wrap up.
Yeah. One quick question there. So the idea here is that people, they do not need and they won't learn about Web3 in general. Like they have many more troubles in their lives. So can I, let's say, I forgot the word, like give them these hats with the list that you mentioned there, the CSV, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So like, yeah, this app is really like an admin panel for all of Web3. It's meant to be used mostly by admins. If you're an individual person, then you might want to see like what some information about the hat that you're wearing, but the chances that you're actually going to do a bunch of customization in the app are pretty low. So you can, and they never need to come here in order to use their hat. All you need to do is like add someone, like for the tipper, for example, like in Warpcast, the way that this hat is actually used, it's not like a real example, it's a test example, is like, someone replies with a number and, the $blue token. They never have to have come to the app in order to do that. They just have to have this hat in their wallet. And if you're giving them access to a document, as long as they're signing in with Ethereum and they have the hat that you already gave them, they don't even need to know that hats exists.
That's very nice.
Yes. So are you planning on working cross-chain or just like Ethereum and EVM compatible chains?
Just EVM right now. We're probably going to deploy it to ZK Sync with some help. But yeah, mostly focused on EVM, not doing anything on Solana or anything like that.
Okay, just curious. Well, I have to go get the 12-year-old a haircut, so I do have to go. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Nick, for showing up again. I think you're the only person who's come every single week, like the whole time.
To be here. I appreciate you guys showing up and be willing to put the time in to give us a run through and workshop a lot of things. So it's great.
Yeah, this was super fun. Thank you for having me. Thank you, Bar Lucid, for hosting, and Aleksa. It was great chatting with you. So thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for the demo. Can I later ping you? Like, we are working in the general code, but after we have it, can I ping you to chat about?
Yep. For sure. Ping me on Telegram.
Elizabeth, can I ping you after? Like, I would love to hear more what you're doing.
Yeah, I'm Elizabeth Kuzma everywhere.
Okay.
pretty much. So you can find me. Did I spell my name right? Yeah. Okay, good. Just and I'm in the DAO Spring Telegram group also, and I'm in the Hats Telegram group too.
Yeah, I just saw you there. I'm there too. Yeah.
Thank you, Aleksa. Thank you, Nick. Thank you,
Thank you
Lizzie.
all.
Thank you,
Thank you
Lucy.
for having me.
Thank you, everybody.
Ciao, ciao.
Everyone.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.